Good morning, guys. Hope you guys had a good spring break. We're going to go ahead and kind of go into factoring a little bit more. I know that we talked about just kind of finding common factors between two numbers the last time we looked at an assignment. This time, we're going to go ahead and look at factoring out a greatest common factor from a polynomial. But let's just kind of break down for a second what this means, all right, to find kind of the factors, as they say. So 24 has four factors. It has a 2, a 2, a 2, and a 3. That means that 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 makes 24. All right, so that's similar to, well, let's call it a burger. Okay, this burger right here is made up of buns, eggs, lettuce, onion, tomato, bacon, cheese, and the hamburger. Now, don't hate on the egg. If you've never had an egg on a burger, you're missing out on life. And I suggest you go ahead and stop this video, make yourself a burger and an egg, and enjoy yourself. All right, so anyway, so the question is, or not the question, but the fact is that this burger is made up of these parts, just like 24 is made up of these parts when you multiply them together. So the same thing happens when we're looking at two terms. Okay, so two terms, two burgers. We want to find out what both of these burgers have in common. Okay, so if you look at these burgers, we have both of them have a bun, both of them have cheese. I think this one has a burger. Let's see. Nope, doesn't have a burger. Okay, so these two sandwiches, I'm not sure why you'd have a burger, but anyways, so we have these buns and cheese is the common factor. These both have buns and a piece of cheese. So if I took that out of both of those sandwiches, okay, that's what we're doing. We're taking out the common element that is in both of these sandwiches. So they both have buns, they both have cheese. What do you have left over? So if I take that out, in the first sandwich, I have an egg and bacon. The second sandwich, I have left lettuce, tomato, and burger. That's what we're doing. When we're factoring out the greatest common divisor, or factor, in both of these, we're taking out what they both have in common. All right, so let's look at this. So I want to factor this. This is this burger times x plus this burger right here. So what do they both have in common? Well, if I'm looking at this, they both have buns, they both have a single burger, and they both have one piece of cheese. So if I take out what they both have in common, again, they both had buns, they both had cheese, they both had at least one burger. So the only thing left in the first sandwich is a piece of lettuce times x. And in the second one, well, all that's left is one piece of cheese and one burger. That's what we did. We factored out what they had in common, and in parentheses, we established what was left between the two sandwiches. Okay? So, let's look at this. So here, if we look at 10x and 15y, we're going to see what they have in common. So in 10x is made up of 2, 5, and x. Those are the factors, 2, 5, and x. In 15, we have a 3, a 5, and a y. These parts equal this, these parts equal this. So I want to know, what do they have in common? Well, they both have a 5 in common. So if I take that 5 out of both of these, in the first term, all I have is a 2 and an x. That's what's left. In this term right here, all I have left is a 3 and a y. Now I have factored this. I factored this by taking out what they had in common, and in parentheses, I leave what's left. That's what greatest common factor means. That's what we're factoring out, what they have in common. All right, so let's look at an example here. What do these have in common? Okay, so again, let's look at what 12x has in common. All right, so 12x is made up of 1, 2, 3, let's let's just make this a little bit easier here for a second. Let's just skip this out. We've done this before. We have found out what the largest divisor is between 12 and 16. What's the largest number that will go into 12 and 16? Anybody know? 4. 4 is the largest number that will go into 12 and 16. So we will take a 4 out. And then we're looking at the variables. This one has an x, this one does not have an x. So I cannot take an x out. So the only thing that these two have in common is a 4. So now I want to find, what do I have left? Well, if you notice, if you come back over here and it said the greatest common divisor. And a lot of times this divisor is actually called factor, but they're the same thing. So we're going to find, so once we've found the greatest common divisor, this is my greatest common divisor, use it as a divisor. Divide each term by this divisor. All right? So what do I have left? 12x divided by 4 is 3x. 16 divided by 4 is just 4. And so that's my answer. 4 times 3x plus 4. And if I check this, well, I can just distribute it. 4 times 3x, 12x. 4 times 4, 16. Okay? So we know that we have the correct answer when we can remultiply it and get the original problem back. Right. So let's look here. So again, what's the largest number? Let's just look at the numbers themselves, not the x's, just the numbers themselves. So what's the largest number that will go into 12 and 24? That would be 12. 12 is the largest number that will go into both. And now I have an x and I don't have an x. So because I don't have an x over here, I can't take an x out with me. So then this is my greatest common divisor. This is what they have in common. This is my greatest common factor. All right? That's divisor and factor are used interchangeably. They're the same thing. So then we have 12x divided by 4. Well, that's going to leave me with 3x. Why did I put... I'm sorry. I am doing something way different here. I don't know why I put a 4 here. All right, let's try this again. My divisor is 12. All right, there we go. So 12x divided by 12 is just x. 24 divided by 12 is 2. Do I have the right answer? Well, let's check. 12 times x, 12x. 12 times 2, 24. And that is exactly the problem we started off with, so therefore I know I have the correct answer. All right, so let's look at these two problems right here. All right, so what is my, we're going to move this one because, okay. So what is the largest number that will go into 16 and 20? Largest number given 16 and 20. 4. So 4 is the largest number that will go into 16 and 20. So we're going to take that 4 out of both of those. This is an x and no x, so I cannot take an x out. So now we want to see what we have left. So let's use this as our divisor. So 16x divided by 4 gives me a 4x. 20 divided by 4 gives me 5. All right, same thing here. What's the largest number that will go into 8 and 12? Well, that'd be 4. So we'll go ahead and take the 4 out. Now what do we have left? Because again, this has an x and no x, so I can't take an x out, so let's go ahead and take that 4 out. So 8x minus 4 is 2x. 12 minus 4 is 3. Now, notice that this is an addition sign, so I keep the addition sign with it. This is a subtraction sign, so I keep the subtraction sign with it. Okay? Now, if we want to check either one of these, we just multiply it through and see if we get the right original problem. All right, so now we have 3 terms. We're doing the same thing. All right? So let's look at this. So we have, we're going to look at the numbers first. All right, so what's the largest number that will go into 2, 6, and 14? 2, 6, and 14. The largest number that will go into 2, 6, and 14 is going to be 2. That's the largest number. This has an x squared, this has an x, and this does not have an x. So therefore, I cannot take any x's out with it because they don't all have one. So let's go ahead and take this out. And we're going to use this as our divisor. So 2x squared divided by 2 gives me just x squared. 6x divided by 2 gives me 3x. And 14 divided by 2 gives me 7. So this is my answer. I've taken the largest factor that all 3 of these have in common and took it out. If I wanted to go ahead and check again, we go ahead and multiply. 2 times x squared, 2x squared. 2 times 3x is 6x. And 2 times 7 gives me 14. So we know we have the right answer. All right, so let's change this up a little bit. Now I have variables in each one of these. Actually, let's do something different. We're going to try something different here. Something a little bit with smaller numbers here. So let's go to your assignment. All right, and let's find one that has 3 variables. So this is the one we're going to use right here. Let's move this guy out of the way. And all right, so let's go ahead and factor this guy. All right, these are a little bit smaller numbers for us to work with. So let's look at this. So here we have, we're going to talk about the numbers first. What do all of these have in common? What's the largest number that will go into 8, 12, and an 8? The largest number that will go into 8, 12, and 8 is 4. Now this is where it gets a little bit tricky. Not tricky, just a little bit different to look at. So if I have an r to the 5th, I have an r to the 3rd, and I have an r. So each one of these terms at least has one r. This has one r, this has 3 r's, this has 5 r's. So what's the largest, what do they all have in common? They all have in common at least one r. Okay, because this has 1 r, this has 3 r's, this has 5 r's, so they at least all have 1 r. So I'm going to take that 1 r out. Now the other way to look at this is, look, if all of these terms have a variable, pick the one that has the smallest exponent. So this has an exponent of 5, this has an exponent of 3, and this has an exponent of 1. So pick the one that has the smallest exponent. In that case, it's 1. So now we see what we have left. So again, this is my divisor. So we have 4r. We're going to divide each one of these terms by 4r. All right, so what do we have left now? So we have an 8 divided by 4 is 2. R to the 5th divided by r. Well, let's remember that if I have r to the 5th over r, I have 5 r's on top and 1 r on bottom. Well, remember, this is an exponent of 1. So when I have the same bases and I'm dividing them, I subtract my exponents. So that's going to be r to the 4th. So r to the 5th divided by r to the 1st is r to the 4th. All right, subtraction, because we have a minus sign right here. 12 divided by 4 is 3. R to the 3rd divided by r. Okay, again, r to the 3rd divided by r is r to the 3 minus 1, which is r squared. So we have r squared plus, because this is a plus sign, 8 divided by 4 is 2. R to the 1st divided by r, well, these will just cancel. And so this is my answer. And again, if we multiplied them back through, we would get the same answer. 4 times 2, 8. R to the 1st times r to the 4th, r to the 5th. 4r, or 4 times negative 3, negative 12. R times r to the 2nd, r to the 3rd. 4 times 2, or 4r times 2 is 8r. And we have the same problem we started off with. So that's what we're doing. We're just taking the common factor out and seeing what it is that we have left. So when we look at your assignment, this is what your assignment looks like. It's the same thing that we've been working on. You have 2 terms, finding out what you have in common with 2 terms. And then, what do we have in common with 3 terms? In some cases, you'll have a variable in only 2 of them and not one in the other. In some cases, you'll have a variable in all 3 terms. All right? So you need to go ahead and keep that in mind. Now, of course, this is not going to be your actual assignment, so I'm not going to give you the answers. But your assignment is going to be posted today. It'll be due by tomorrow at 10 p.m. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and post this video and post the assignment. If you have any questions, please email me, call me, do whatever. Hit me up on Google Classroom, and I will reach out to you as soon as I can. Okie doke? All right, guys. Take care. We'll touch base on Thursday. Thursday will be a new lesson for an assignment due on Friday. Have a good day.